March 8th, 2026. Beverly Hills, the safest neighborhood in America. Until it wasn't. A white Tesla pulls up to Rihanna's mansion gate. Seconds later, gunfire. Multiple rounds from an AR-15 style rifle. Bullets piercing metal, one penetrating the wall. And inside the house, Rihanna, A$AP Rocky, and their young children. Within hours, the story exploded across every major media outlet. But here's where things get absolutely insane. The shooter drove across the entire country, Florida to California. Thousands of miles, one destination, one target. And when investigators started digging into the suspect's background, they found something that sent chills through the entire entertainment industry. Social media posts accusing Rihanna of surveillance, of underground monitoring systems, of conspiring against her life. And then Katt Williams' name started appearing everywhere. Old interviews resurfacing, warnings about Hollywood, about contracts that control souls, about what happens when you become too powerful. Before we go any further, you need to hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because what you're about to hear is going to make some very powerful people extremely uncomfortable. And they're going to do whatever they can to keep this information from spreading. So let's make sure everyone sees this. To understand what happened on March 8th, 2026, we need to understand where Rihanna was in her life at that exact moment. This wasn't just another celebrity. This was Robin Rihanna Fenty, a woman worth an estimated $1.4 billion, the richest female musician on the planet, owner of Fenty Beauty, a brand that generated $550 million in its first year alone, a brand currently valued at $2.8 billion. She owns 50% of that company. That's $1.4 billion from one brand. Then there's Savage x Fenty, the lingerie empire that disrupted an entire industry, valued at over $1 billion. Rihanna owns 30%. That's another $300 million in assets. When you combine music royalties, touring income, endorsements, and business ventures, you're looking at someone who transcended entertainment completely. She's sitting at tables with luxury conglomerate executives. She's partnered with LVMH, one of the most powerful corporations on earth. For those who don't know, LVMH owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Givenchy, and dozens of other luxury brands. When a black woman from Barbados walks into that boardroom and demands 50% ownership, she's not just making business moves. She's rewriting the entire power structure. And that makes certain people very, very uncomfortable. The geography of terror. Now, let's talk about Beverly Hills. This isn't just any neighborhood. This is where billionaires live behind gates and private security. Where luxury cars don't get a second glance. Where the median home price exceeds $3 million. Crime rates here are among the lowest in the nation. Violent crime is virtually non-existent. So when gunshots rang out at 1:20 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, the entire community went into shock. Neighbors reported hearing what sounded like fireworks, sharp cracking sounds. Then the realization, those weren't fireworks. That was real gunfire. One neighbor later told reporters, "We don't hear that kind of thing in this neighborhood." And that's the point. Beverly Hills was supposed to be untouchable. But on March 8th, that illusion shattered along with the metal gate outside Rihanna's mansion. The 60-second window. According to witness reports and police reconstruction, here's what happened. A white Tesla approaches the mansion. It slows down, stops directly in front of the gate. For a few seconds, nothing. Then the window rolls down, and bullets start flying. Multiple rounds fired in rapid succession. The sound of metal striking metal echoes through the neighborhood. At least 5 bullets hit the gate directly. One round penetrates the exterior wall of the house, not far from where the family's living area is located. Inside that house at that very moment, Rihanna, A$AP Rocky, their 2 young children. If that bullet had traveled just a few feet in a different direction, if the angle had been slightly off, we would be talking about one of the biggest tragedies in entertainment history. But luck was on their side that day. The Tesla speeds away, leaves behind bullet holes and shell casings. Within an hour, police locate the vehicle at a nearby shopping center. The suspect is taken into custody without incident. No dramatic chase. No standoff. Just a woman sitting in a Tesla, with a rifle in the back. The woman who crossed America. Her name is Ivana Letitia Ortiz, 35 years old, from Florida. And when investigators started pulling her records, a deeply disturbing pattern emerged. This wasn't a random person who snapped in the moment. This was someone whose entire life had been building toward an explosion. In 2023, Ortiz was involuntarily detained under Florida's Baker Act. For those who don't know, the Baker Act allows authorities to force psychiatric evaluation when someone poses a danger to themselves or others. That's not a minor intervention. That's the state saying, this person is a legitimate threat. But here's what makes this terrifying. She was evaluated, released, and the system moved on. No long-term monitoring, no continued intervention, just back into society, with the same paranoid thoughts, the same delusions, the same rage. Ortiz also had 3 prior arrests for domestic violence, a pattern of explosive, dangerous behavior. Law enforcement in Florida knew who she was. She was on their radar, but somehow, she was able to drive across the entire United States, from the East Coast to the West Coast, across multiple states, with a rifle in her vehicle, with one destination programmed into her mind: Rihanna's home address. Think about that for a second. This wasn't an impulsive decision. She didn't wake up that morning and decide to drive to Beverly Hills. This was planned, calculated, a journey of thousands of miles with one specific purpose: to reach that gate and to open fire. The social media trail. Now here's where things get even more disturbing. In late February 2026, just weeks before the shooting, Ortiz began posting on Facebook. The messages were bizarre, accusatory, filled with paranoid delusions specifically targeting Rihanna. According to these posts, Ortiz believed that Rihanna was monitoring her through an underground surveillance system. She accused the singer of having a contagious disease, of using her power and influence to destroy Ortiz's life, of being behind every hardship and struggle she experienced. To anyone reading these posts, they sounded completely irrational, the ramblings of someone deeply disconnected from reality. But inside Ortiz's mind, this was truth. This was her lived experience. And in her distorted worldview, Rihanna wasn't a billionaire music icon. She was the enemy, the person responsible for all her pain. And that's what makes this so chilling. Because when someone is that far gone, when delusion has completely replaced reality, violence becomes logical. In Ortiz's mind, the shooting on March 8th wasn't a crime. It was self-defense. It was striking back at the person she believed was hunting her. When police arrested Ortiz, her bail was set at $10.2 million. That's an extraordinarily high amount. Bail that high is reserved for suspects who pose an extreme danger to the community, who have a high risk of committing further violent acts, or who might flee if released. The court looked at this case and said, this woman cannot be on the streets. And prosecutors made their argument clear. This wasn't reckless discharge of a firearm. This was attempted murder. A woman who stopped her car outside a celebrity's home, armed with an AR-15 style rifle, and fired multiple rounds into a residence with people inside. One bullet pierced the wall. If the trajectory had been slightly different, if the angle had been just a few degrees off, we would be having a completely different conversation right now. This wasn't the first time, but here's what most people don't know. This wasn't the first time Rihanna became a target. And that's what makes this story so much darker. Because there's a pattern here. A pattern that suggests fame at Rihanna's level doesn't just attract admiration. It attracts danger. May 9th, 2018. Hollywood Hills. A man named Eduardo Leon broke into Rihanna's home. But he didn't break a window. He didn't smash through a door. He somehow disabled the alarm system completely. No sensors triggered. No sirens. He just walked in. And here's the absolutely horrifying part. He stayed there for 12 hours. While Rihanna was fortunately not home, this stranger lived in her house, charged his phone, walked through her bedroom, touched her personal belongings, rummaged through stage outfits and memorabilia. He wasn't there to steal jewelry. He was there to possess the space itself, to be close to Rihanna, to inhabit her world. When police finally discovered him and took him into custody, Eduardo Leon made a statement that left everyone stunned. He told investigators he broke in to wait for Rihanna to return home, so he could carry out an inappropriate sexual act with her. He genuinely believed this was his purpose, that he had some kind of right to be there, that Rihanna would somehow understand. The delusion was complete, and if she had come home alone that night, without security, without anyone else there, the world might have lost one of its brightest stars to a nightmare scenario. Leon was eventually convicted on stalking and burglary charges, but the damage was done. The illusion of safety was shattered. Because if someone can disable a multi-million-dollar security system and live inside your house for half a day without anyone noticing, then nowhere is truly safe. The 3 types of danger. When you reach Rihanna's level of fame, you don't just deal with paparazzi and tabloids. You deal with 3 distinct categories of threat. And understanding these categories is crucial to understanding what happened on March 8th. Category 1. The obsessive fan. Most fans love their idols in healthy ways. They stream music, buy concert tickets, follow on social media. But then there's a subset that crosses the line. These individuals start to believe they have a personal connection with a celebrity. They convince themselves that the artist is sending them secret messages, that song lyrics are written specifically for them, that eye contact during a concert means something profound. And over time, that admiration transforms into obsession. They begin stalking social media accounts, showing up at known locations, attempting to make contact. For them, the celebrity stops being a person and becomes an object of possession, something they need to acquire, something they deserve. And when reality doesn't match their delusion, when the celebrity doesn't recognize this special connection, that obsession can turn violent. Category 2. The attention seeker. In the age of social media, infamy has value. It only takes one extreme act involving a celebrity for your name to appear across headlines worldwide. Some individuals are so desperate for recognition, so consumed by the need to be seen and talked about, that they'll do anything to achieve it, even if it means committing a violent act, even if it means prison, because in their mind, being mentioned in connection with a major star is worth it. They'll be remembered, talked about, analyzed. And for someone who has felt invisible their entire life, that kind of attention becomes intoxicating, even if it's for the worst possible reasons. Category 3. The ideological extremist. This is perhaps the most dangerous category. These are individuals who target celebrities not because they're obsessed with them personally, but because of what they represent. A successful Black woman, a billionaire who disrupted traditional power structures, an artist who challenges societal norms. For certain extremist groups, Rihanna represents everything they hate. She's powerful, independent, unapologetic, and she's sitting at tables where they believe she doesn't belong. So when someone like Ivana Ortiz, who is already mentally unstable, starts consuming online content filled with conspiracy theories and paranoid narratives, when she's exposed daily to rhetoric about celebrities controlling the masses, about underground surveillance systems, about powerful elites destroying ordinary people, that ideology becomes the framework for her delusion. And Rihanna becomes the face of that perceived enemy, the billion-dollar target. Now, let's talk about why Rihanna's wealth matters in this story. Because this isn't just about fame anymore. When Rihanna launched Fenty Beauty in 2017, she didn't just release another celebrity makeup line. She fundamentally disrupted an entire industry. For decades, the global beauty market was dominated by massive corporations. L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, Procter & Gamble. These companies controlled billions of dollars in annual revenue. They dictated trends, set standards, determined what was beautiful and what wasn't. And then Rihanna showed up with 40 foundation shades. In an industry that historically ignored darker skin tones, she made inclusion the centerpiece. She created products that actually worked for everyone. And the market responded. In year 1, Fenty Beauty generated $550 million in revenue. By year 2, the brand was valued at over $2.8 billion. Rihanna secured a partnership with LVMH, 50% ownership. That means she has equal say in decision-making, equal profit sharing, equal power. When was the last time you saw a Black woman from Barbados sitting across from French luxury conglomerate executives as an equal partner? This wasn't just business success. This was a fundamental shift in who gets to control billion-dollar industries. And that made her enemies. Not just competitors, enemies. The shadow of 2009. To understand Rihanna's journey, we have to go back to February 2009, the night before the Grammy Awards. Rihanna was dating Chris Brown. Both were at the peak of their careers. Young, successful, the picture of a perfect couple. Until the world saw the photo. The leaked police report image that showed Rihanna's face bruised and swollen. Scratches visible across her skin. Lips split. The result of a violent assault inside a car. Chris Brown was arrested and later pleaded guilty. He received 5 years probation and community service. But for Rihanna, the damage went far beyond physical injuries. The entire world saw her at her most vulnerable. And instead of universal support, she faced something darker. Victim blaming. Questions about what she did to provoke it. Speculation about whether she somehow deserved it. The incident exposed a harsh truth about fame. Even when you're one of the biggest stars on the planet, you're still vulnerable to violence, still subject to abuse, still human. And that vulnerability never fully goes away. Years later, Rihanna would transform that trauma into empowerment. She would build an empire, take control of her image, her business, her narrative. But the scars remained, both visible and invisible. And every time another threat emerges, every time another person tries to hurt her, those wounds reopen. Enter Katt Williams, the prophet of Hollywood. Now here's where the story takes a turn into territory that's going to make some people uncomfortable. Because after the March 8th shooting, something strange started happening online. Old Katt Williams interviews began resurfacing. Clips from podcasts, stand-up specials, appearances where he talked about the entertainment industry. And people started connecting dots. For years, Katt Williams has built a reputation as Hollywood's truth teller, the comedian who refuses to stay quiet about what happens behind closed doors. He's talked about lavish parties where deals get made, about contracts that come with hidden clauses, about the pressure artists face to compromise their values for success. And he specifically mentioned something that resonates with conspiracy theorists, the idea that to reach the very top, you have to make agreements with powerful forces. That true independence is a threat to the system. That when you become too successful on your own terms, you become a target. In a 2024 interview that went viral, Katt Williams said something that now feels prophetic. They'll let you shine, but only as long as you stay under control. The moment you start building your own empire, you become a threat. And when you look at Rihanna's trajectory, that statement hits differently. She didn't just stay in her lane as a pop star. She built Fenty Beauty, Savage x Fenty. She partnered with LVMH on her own terms. She became a billionaire without compromising her artistic vision. She stayed independent. And according to Katt Williams' framework, that's when you become dangerous. Not dangerous in the sense that you're harmful. Dangerous in the sense that you're disrupting the established order. The music video conspiracy. Now we need to address something that's been spreading like wildfire across TikTok and YouTube. The theory that Rihanna's music videos contain hidden messages about her position in the entertainment industry. Let's be clear from the start. These are interpretations, not confirmed facts. But they're worth examining because of how widely they're being discussed. The imagery of confinement. Released in 2011, the S&M music video shows Rihanna wrapped tightly in plastic film, surrounded by walls covered in newspapers, cameras flashing constantly, paparazzi swarming. For most viewers, it's a provocative artistic statement about fame and media obsession. But online analysts have pointed to specific imagery they find symbolic. The plastic wrapping is interpreted as suffocation, loss of control, being packaged and presented for consumption. The newspapers covering every surface represent the media constantly defining her narrative. And Rihanna herself appears both powerful and trapped, commanding the space while simultaneously confined by it. Some videos analyzing the imagery ask questions like, why would someone as powerful as Rihanna choose to be depicted as restrained? Is this artistic expression or commentary on the reality of fame? Again, these are interpretations. Rihanna herself has never confirmed these theories. But the fact that millions of people are analyzing her work through this lens says something about public perception. Umbrella, protection or control. The song Umbrella catapulted Rihanna to global superstardom in 2007. It's one of her most iconic hits. But some online theorists have focused on the symbolism in the music video. Rihanna appears with silver-coated skin, dancing within geometric frames. Cold, stark lighting. The umbrella itself becomes a central symbol. Most people interpret it literally. Protection from rain. A metaphor for being there for someone. But conspiracy theorists suggest it represents something else entirely. Protection within the entertainment industry. The powerful systems that shelter artists but also control them. The umbrella isn't just keeping you dry. It's determining where you can go, what you can do, who you can become. You're protected, but only as long as you stay under the umbrella. The moment you step out, you're exposed, vulnerable, at risk. Disturbia, the dark side of fame. Released in 2008, Disturbia features some of Rihanna's darkest imagery. She appears in a cage, eyes pale and haunted, movements erratic and unsettling. The video has a horror psychological aesthetic that stands out in her catalog. For casual viewers, it's simply a well-crafted music video that matches the song's eerie vibe. But online analysts see something deeper. They interpret the cage as literal representation of feeling trapped by fame, the pale eyes as loss of identity, the psychological horror elements as reflection of the mental toll that constant public scrutiny creates. One popular YouTube analysis video with over 2 million views breaks down each scene frame by frame, pointing to moments where Rihanna appears to be struggling against restraints, where shadows seem to be controlling her movements, where the line between performance and genuine distress becomes blurred. Whether you believe these interpretations or not, one thing is undeniable. The imagery in Disturbia made audiences feel something uncomfortable, something darker than typical pop music videos. And that discomfort is what makes people wonder, was Rihanna trying to tell us something? The Illuminati question. We need to address the elephant in the room. The theory that won't go away no matter how many times it's debunked. The idea that Rihanna is connected to secret societies, specifically the Illuminati. Now, before we go further, let's establish facts. There is zero credible evidence that a modern Illuminati organization exists in the way conspiracy theorists describe. There is zero evidence that Rihanna is connected to any secret society. But the persistence of this theory reveals something important about how we perceive power. The theory goes like this. To reach the absolute pinnacle of entertainment, you must make agreements with hidden forces. You must join secret societies, perform rituals, give up control in exchange for fame and wealth. Conspiracy theorists point to specific things as evidence. Triangle symbols that Rihanna has displayed in photos and performances. The eye symbol that appears in some of her visuals. Lyrics that supposedly contain hidden messages. Business partnerships with incredibly powerful corporations. For believers, these aren't coincidences. They're proof of membership in a secret organization. And here's where the March 8th shooting gets pulled into this narrative. Some conspiracy theorists argue that Rihanna was trying to break free from these alleged secret agreements, that she had become too powerful, too independent, that Fenty Beauty and Savage X Fenty represented her building an empire outside the control of traditional gatekeepers. And in their view, the shooting was a warning, a message from those hidden forces. Stay in line, or this is what happens. Now, let me be absolutely clear. The police investigation has found zero evidence of any conspiracy. Ivana Ortiz appears to be a mentally ill individual who became fixated on Rihanna through paranoid delusion. There is no evidence of hidden forces or orchestrated attacks. But the fact that these theories spread so quickly and so widely tells us something important. People are increasingly skeptical about the official narrative. They're looking for deeper explanations. And when someone as powerful and independent as Rihanna faces violence, it triggers questions about whether there are forces that don't want to see that kind of Black female empowerment. The industry disruption theory. Let's talk about a more grounded version of the conspiracy. One that doesn't involve secret societies, but does involve very real business competition. When Rihanna launched Fenty Beauty, she didn't just compete with other brands. She exposed them. For decades, major beauty corporations sold limited shade ranges. They ignored entire demographics. And they made billions doing it. Then Rihanna came along with 40 shades in her launch collection, with marketing that celebrated diversity as the default, not an afterthought. And the industry was forced to respond. Within months, other brands started expanding their shade ranges. Advertising campaigns became more inclusive. The entire standard changed. But here's the thing. When you force an industry to change, you make enemies. Companies that were perfectly profitable ignoring darker skin tones suddenly had to invest millions in research and development. They had to overhaul their product lines, rebrand their marketing, all because one woman refused to accept the status quo. And then she did it again with lingerie. Savage X Fenty challenged Victoria's Secret and other established brands by featuring models of all sizes, races, and gender expressions. The famous Victoria's Secret fashion show, which had dominated lingerie marketing for decades, was eventually canceled, in part because Savage X Fenty showed there was a better way, a more inclusive way, a more profitable way. So when people theorize about industry forces wanting to send Rihanna a message, they're not necessarily talking about mystical secret societies. They're talking about very real competitors. Corporations that lost market share. Executives whose brands became outdated. Business interests that would prefer if Rihanna just stayed in her lane as a pop star. Could someone in that world hire a proxy? Use a mentally unstable individual as a pawn? Create an attack that looks random but carries a message? It's a theory, one with no evidence. But it's the kind of theory that persists because the business stakes are so incredibly high. The racial and political dimension. Now we need to talk about something uncomfortable: race. Because Rihanna isn't just a successful entrepreneur. She's a successful Black woman entrepreneur. And that distinction matters. In 2018, Rihanna was appointed Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Barbados. That's not just an honorary title, it's a legitimate diplomatic position. She represents her home country in matters of education, tourism, and investment. She's consulted on economic development. She's used her platform to advocate for Caribbean nations. She's become a political figure. And for certain groups, that's threatening. In the current political climate, successful Black women who refuse to stay in their place become targets. We've seen it with Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, Oprah, and now Rihanna. When Ivana Ortiz was posting paranoid messages on Facebook, where was she getting these ideas? What kind of content was she consuming? What online communities was she part of? Because paranoid delusions don't form in a vacuum. They're fed by the information we consume daily. And if Ortiz was spending time in online spaces filled with conspiracy theories about powerful elites, about celebrities controlling the masses, about Black women wielding undeserved influence, then her specific fixation on Rihanna starts to make more sense. She may have pulled the trigger, but the ideology that loaded the gun came from somewhere. From years of consuming content that taught her to see successful Black women as threats, as enemies, as people who needed to be stopped. The pattern of violence. Let's step back and look at the pattern. 2009, Chris Brown assaults Rihanna. 2018, Eduardo Leon breaks into her home and stays there for 12 hours. 2026, Ivana Ortiz fires an AR-15 at her house while her family is inside. 3 separate incidents, 3 different perpetrators, but one consistent target. At what point do we stop calling these isolated events and start recognizing a pattern? Fame attracts attention. That's obvious. But this level of targeted violence against one individual suggests something deeper. There are plenty of famous female artists who don't face this level of threat. Taylor Swift has obsessive fans, but not armed attackers driving cross-country to shoot at her house. Beyoncé has intense public scrutiny, but not home invaders living in her bedroom for half a day. So, what makes Rihanna different? Is it her level of independence? Her billionaire status? Her refusal to conform to industry expectations? Her racial identity? Her political positions? Or is it simply bad luck? The unfortunate reality of being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person fixating on you? We don't have definitive answers, but the pattern is undeniable. And it raises serious questions about the price of Black female success in America. What this means for celebrity security. The March 8th shooting has sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry's security apparatus. Because if someone can drive across the country with a rifle and get close enough to Rihanna's home to fire multiple rounds, then current security measures are insufficient. Within days of the incident, multiple reports emerged of A-list celebrities increasing their security budgets, hiring additional armed guards, installing more sophisticated surveillance systems. Some are even considering relocating to more secure compounds. The era of celebrities living in traditional residential neighborhoods, even wealthy ones like Beverly Hills, may be coming to an end. We're likely to see a shift toward fortress-style estates, properties with significant distance between the perimeter and the main residence, advanced threat detection systems, on-site security personnel 24/7. Essentially, treating celebrities like foreign dignitaries who face constant threat assessment. But here's the darker implication. This level of security creates even more distance between stars and ordinary people. It reinforces the idea that celebrities exist in a completely different world, and that isolation can breed resentment, which feeds the cycle of obsession and violence. The legal questions. How did Ivana Ortiz, someone who had been involuntarily detained for psychiatric evaluation, obtain an AR-15-style rifle? That's the question lawmakers are already asking. Florida has the Baker Act specifically to identify individuals who pose a danger to themselves or others. Ortiz was detained under this law in 2023. Yet somehow, she was able to acquire a military-style weapon, travel across multiple states, and carry out a planned attack. The gaps in the system are glaring. We're likely to see renewed calls for stronger red flag laws. Laws that would prevent individuals with documented mental health crises from purchasing firearms. But this is America, where gun rights are fiercely protected, where any suggestion of restriction faces intense political opposition. So even though this shooting revealed obvious systemic failures, the question remains, will anything actually change? Or will we simply move on to the next tragedy? The social media responsibility. Ortiz's Facebook posts from February 2026 should have been red flags. She was publicly accusing a celebrity of surveillance and conspiracy, using increasingly paranoid and threatening language. This wasn't hidden in encrypted messages or dark web forums. This was on Facebook, a platform with billions of users and supposedly sophisticated content moderation systems. Why weren't these posts flagged? Why wasn't law enforcement notified? Why was Ortiz able to publicly post threatening content about a specific individual without any intervention? These questions put pressure on social media companies. Because if we can track and remove misinformation about elections, if we can identify and ban accounts that promote terrorism, then we should be able to identify direct threats against specific individuals, especially when those individuals are public figures with massive platforms. The failure here isn't just on law enforcement. It's on the tech companies that profit from engagement while ignoring the real-world violence their platforms can facilitate. What happens to Rihanna now? On a human level, this incident will change Rihanna's life forever. Even though no one was physically injured, the psychological impact is profound. She now knows that her home, the place where her children live and play, was targeted with a military-style weapon. That bullets penetrated the walls. That if the angle had been slightly different, her family could have been killed. That trauma doesn't just disappear. It changes how you move through the world, how you assess risk, how you trust your environment. For someone who has already survived domestic violence and a home invasion, this is the third major trauma in her life. And each one leaves scars that never fully heal. We may see Rihanna step back from public life, reduce her appearances, spend more time in private, secured locations. Or we may see the opposite. A woman who refuses to be intimidated, who continues building her empire, who doesn't let fear dictate her choices. Either response is valid. Either response is understandable, but the choice should be hers, not forced upon her by violence. The bigger cultural moment. What the March 8th shooting really represents is a collision between fame, mental illness, social media radicalization, gun access, and systemic failures. It's not just one thing. It's all of these elements converging in a single violent moment. And until we address all of these factors, this will keep happening. Not just to Rihanna, to other public figures, to ordinary people caught in the crossfire of someone else's delusion. The question is whether this incident becomes a catalyst for change, or whether it becomes another statistic, another news story that dominates headlines for a week and then fades. Another example of American violence that we collectively shrug at and move on from. The Katt Williams prophecy. And here's where we circle back to Katt Williams. Because whether you believe in conspiracy theories or not, one thing he said has proven true. The higher you climb, the more dangerous it becomes. Rihanna didn't just become famous. She became powerful. She built billion-dollar businesses. She disrupted entire industries. She challenged the status quo. And in doing so, she became a target. Not necessarily from shadowy secret societies, but from all the very real forces that feel threatened by Black female excellence. From mentally ill individuals who consume conspiracy content online. From an entertainment industry that prefers controllable artists over independent moguls. From a society that still hasn't fully accepted that Black women deserve to sit at the table of power. Katt Williams saw this pattern years ago. And on March 8th, 2026, his warning became reality. So now, with all of that said, let me know. What do you think really happened on March 8th, 2026? Was this simply a mentally ill individual acting on paranoid delusions? Or is there something deeper happening here? Something about the way we treat successful Black women in America? Something about the dangers of fame in the age of social media? Do you believe Ivana Ortiz acted completely alone? Or was she influenced by online content that radicalized her against Rihanna? What do you think this means for Rihanna's future? Will she continue building her empire? Or will this trauma force her to step back? And what about the bigger picture? Are we going to see real changes to gun laws and mental health intervention? Or will this become just another story we forget in a few weeks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think about all of this, because this story is far from over, and the implications reach way beyond one shooting in Beverly Hills. If you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out tremendously and allows me to keep bringing you this kind of deep analysis. Thank you for watching. Your support means absolutely everything. But in the meantime, if you want to see how other celebrities have faced similar threats and survived, well, you're not going to want to miss this one. Check out the suggested video to see the full story. Take care of yourselves. And remember, behind the glamour and the billion-dollar brands, these are real people with real families and real trauma.